Welcome to Peza Horror Stories. What you're about to hear happened to me back in 2014 in Colorado. And before I tell you everything, before I drag you into this nightmare with my need to ask you to subscribe, because these stories, they're real, and some of them are warnings. This is mine. My name is Ernesto Ramirez. In 2014, I moved my family into what I thought was the perfect home outside Boulder, Colorado. I had worked my whole life to open an auto repair shop, and the property we rented came with a barn big enough to finally make that dream real. The house sat in the middle of an old apple orchard. It was beautiful, peaceful, and more land than I'd ever had. My wife Rosa loved the garden. My daughter played in the fields. But my son, Diego, he found something else. At the far edge of the orchard stood a huge mulberry tree. Thick, twisted, covered in nails. Rusty nails hammered all over the trunk, hundreds of them. I laughed when I first saw it. Thought it was some strange old habit of the previous owners. But Diego, he couldn't stay away. He'd pull nails out, hammer them back in, like it was a toy. I didn't stop him. I wished to God I had. A week later, a neighbor came by. She was an older woman named Mrs. Carter. She brought us pie, welcomed us politely, but the whole time, her eyes stayed on that mulberry tree. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. "You've got kids, don't you?" "Yes," Rosa told her, pointing to Diego. Mrs. Carter's face went pale. "You need to keep him away from that tree. Those nails, they keep something locked inside. You take them out, you let it loose." I laughed it off. "It's just a tree." But the way she looked at me, like I'd already made a terrible mistake, still makes my stomach turn. The very night Diego pulled out his first handful of nails, I started hearing footsteps on the roof, not random scurrying like raccoons. No heavy, deliberate steps, pacing back and forth, all night long. I went outside with a flashlight, nothing was there. But the sound stopped as soon as I stepped out. The next night, it came again, louder. Then Rosa started seeing shadows in the mirrors. Once, she screamed while folding laundry, said there was a man standing behind her in the reflection. But when she turned around, no one was there. I thought she was imagining things. I told her the house was old, the noises normal, but I knew I was lying. Then it went after my son. Diego started waking up, gasping for air, clawing at his chest. He told us something heavy was sitting on him at night, pressing him down, choking him. Sometimes Rosa found yellow bruises on his ribs, hand-shaped bruises. We took him to doctors. They found nothing wrong, but I knew, because I heard it too. Every night, the footsteps grew louder. Sometimes they didn't just pace. Sometimes they ran, across the roof, across the walls, circling us like an animal. And always, it stopped at Diego's window. One stormy night, I woke to the sound of the back door slamming. I ran outside in the rain, and there he was, Diego, standing at the mulberry tree, barefoot in the mud, lightning flashing above him. He was pulling nails out one after another. His lips moved, whispering words I couldn't understand. I screamed his name, but he didn't hear me. When I reached him, his eyes rolled back white. His body trembled, like something was inside him. And then, I swear on my life, the branches of that tree moved, twitched, like hands. Like something was pushing from inside, desperate to get out. I dragged him back inside, but the damage was done. That night, none of us slept. The next day, Rosa called the church. Pastor Miller came, a stocky man in his 50s. The moment he saw the mulberry tree, his face drained of color. He turned to me and whispered, "Do you know what you've done?" I shook my head. This tree was bound. The miners who lived here over a century ago, they trapped something inside it. The nails aren't random. Each one is a lock. You pull them out, you open the prison. And your son? He looked at Diego, trembling in Rosa's arms. "Your son is the key." I begged him to help us. He nodded slowly. "I'll try." But once a thing like this wakes, it doesn't always go back to sleep. That night, Pastor Miller walked the house, sprinkling holy water, praying over every corner. We clung together, listening to his trembling voice. Then, silence. The orchard went still. No wind, no insects. Even the storm clouds outside froze. Then something landed on the roof. The entire house shook. We heard claws scraping across the shingles. A slow dragging sound, and then breathing, deep, guttural, wet breathing, like something enormous crouched just above us. The windows blew out, every single one at once, spraying glass across the floor. The lights died, and in that pitch black, Diego screamed. I grabbed him, but he lifted into the air, his small body suspended, twisting, as if something invisible had him by the throat. Pastor Miller shouted louder, forcing prayers out through trembling lips. Rosa cried out, clutching at nothing, trying to pull Diego down, and then I heard it. A voice. Diego, come back, to the tree. It wasn't human. It rattled through the walls, through my bones. Diego's mouth opened, he whispered back, though his eyes were rolled back white. I thought we'd lost him. Then, suddenly, he dropped to the floor like a stone. The presence didn't leave, it laughed. A laugh so deep, so hollow, it shook my insides. And then, it was gone. By morning, our house was destroyed. Windows shattered, furniture overturned, blood on the floor where the glass had cut us. Pastor Miller was so weak, he could barely stand. His skin was gray, sweat pouring from his face. He looked at me with hollow eyes and whispered, it's not gone. It won't ever be gone. You opened the door too wide. You'll always be watched now, especially the boy. We packed that same day. Left everything behind, the orchard, the shop, the house, even that cursed mulberry tree, with its wounds wide open. We thought distance would save us. But weeks later, in a brand new home states away, Diego woke screaming. He said he heard footsteps on the roof again. Sometimes, Rosa finds rusty nails on the floor of his room. Old, bent, corroded, as if the tree followed us. So if you ever see a tree covered in nails, don't touch them. They aren't decoration, they aren't harmless, they're locks. And the thing behind them is waiting for someone like my son to set it free. This has been Peza Horror Stories. If you want more stories like this, subscribe, because next time, the darkness may be even closer to home. And remember, some prisons aren't made of bars. They're made of wood and nails.